This is Jonathan Weiniger with the Indiana State Board of Accounts. As many of you know, Chase Lennon and I specialize in providing guidance and training to school and township officials. As always, we are here to provide information and support before and after your audit engagements. Additionally, we provide assistance through state-called meetings and other conferences all across the state throughout the year. There are many of you that Chase and I have communicated with through email and/or telephone, but have not yet met in person. Feel free to stop us at any of these meetings and help us put faces with names. At many of these meetings, we set up a resource table. Don't hesitate to stop by our resource table and say hello. We would love to meet you and learn how our team can best serve your unit. As a final reminder, don't forget to check out our website at in.gov/SBOA, where you can find bulletins, manuals, directives, and other pieces of information in order to best equip yourself in serving your local governmental unit. With that being said, we have received various questions recently regarding the completion of the pre-engagement documents you received via email prior to an audit. In turn, we are providing you with this presentation to give you a broad overview of how to best complete these pre-engagement planning documents you will receive or you may have already received in order to create as smooth of an engagement as possible. We hope you find this presentation useful, and if you have any questions, you can reach us anytime by email or by phone using the contact information below.
Hello, my name is Tanner Huber, and I am a field examiner with the State Board of Accounts. This video was produced to assist you in navigating the pre-planning stage of your upcoming engagement that will aid our team in its completion. Here at the State Board of Accounts, we believe that working together with local government officials all the way through this process maximizes the efficiency and the effectiveness of the engagement. Now, let's get started. Now, if you're expecting an engagement in the near future, you will have received an engagement planning communication email from our Engagement Strategies Department that includes several documents for your review and completion. These documents are a Form 13, its correlating files compiled through Gateway based on information entered by the governmental unit, a Form 7, and a Form 9. Now, our goal is that you send the completed and reviewed documents in an email to the Engagement Strategies team within 3 weeks of receiving the engagement planning communication. This will ensure that the documents are available to our team at the start of your engagement and will further increase the efficiency and effectiveness of your engagement. Now that you know what to expect, let's dive a little deeper into these forms and get you some additional information and tips that will best help you in completing them. The first document we are going to cover is the Form 13. Auditing standards state that in order to perform an audit or review engagement, the audit agency and its auditors have to remain independent. If any activities are performed outside of the audit, commonly referred to as non-audit services, such as the compilation of the financial statement or the compilation of the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, which you'll hear me refer to as the CFA for the remainder of the presentation, then safeguards must be put in place so that the independence of the agency and its auditors are not impaired. Well, since the State Board of Accounts compiles the financial statement and the CFA from information uploaded to Gateway, we must deploy a safeguard to maintain our independence of the audit. For us, that safeguard is the Form 13. This is an example of the Form 13. As you can see, it has a spot at the top for the printed name of the official who has been designated by management to oversee non-audit services. Typically, this is your city or town clerk treasurer, your school CFO or your school treasurer, your township trustee, your county auditor, or whoever your fiscal officer is if you're a special district. For each segment, there is a list of items to check through for each document that was compiled through Gateway to ensure that the document truly reflects the information you entered into Gateway. Now, the example in front of you is for a non-federal engagement under the regulatory basis. This form will look a little different if you are subject to a single audit, but the concept is still the same. In initialing each line and signing and dating the bottom of the form, management of local government takes responsibility for the correlating files in your engagement planning communication email that were compiled through Gateway. This contains the overall preliminary financial statement, including first what we call the financial statement. At most unit types, this is referred to as the statement of receipts, disbursements, and cash and investment balances on the Form 13. And second, it includes the other information, which covers both the combining schedule of receipts, disbursements, and cash and investment balances, and the other supplementary schedule sections on the Form 13. The other information is made up of the combining schedules, the schedule of payables and receivables, the schedule of leases and debt, and the schedule of capital assets. In initialing and signing, management also assumes responsibility for the notes to the financial statements. If your engagement is a single audit, there will also be boxes to initial assuming responsibility for the CFA and the notes to the CFA. Again, this may look a little different if you're under a GAAP engagement, but the concept is still the same. Now there is one catch. Prior to initialing each line and signing the Form 13, please look through the statements and schedules for any errors or differences between these documents and the information you uploaded to Gateway. Now, if you do not find any errors or differences, you're good to go. You may initial each line and sign the form. However, if you do find errors or differences, please first document these so that they can be discussed with the engagement team for potential adjustment when they arrive on site. Please also include this documentation on a separate attachment in your return email to Engagement Strategies and contact the audit coordinator copied on the engagement planning communication email to discuss those changes. Now, this last instruction is really important. Please do not make changes directly to the files. We need the ability to show what Gateway originally produced and what else you were originally provided versus what you believe is correct based on the information you entered. Well, that wraps up our discussion on the Form 13. Next, we are going to discuss the Form 7 and the Form 9. Now, auditing standards require that auditors gain an understanding of industry, regulatory, and other factors affecting the governmental unit, the nature of the governmental unit, objectives and strategies, related business risks, the measurement and review of the governmental unit's financial performance, and an understanding of the governmental unit's internal controls. All of these requirements are outlined on these two forms, and they allow us to gain the understanding that auditing standards require. This is an example of the first page of a blank Form 7. Regardless of what type of governmental unit you are, the Form 7 is standard. It'll be the same for all unit types. Here are a couple of things to keep in mind as you fill it out. The first is that the purpose of the Form 7 is to assist us in gaining an understanding of your internal controls. And the second is that you only need to complete Part 1 of this form. You can leave Parts 2 and 3 blank, as they will be completed by the engagement team when they arrive on site. The answers you provide in Part 1 will be followed up on by the engagement team, which will help them in completing Parts 2 and 3. This is an example of the first page of a generic Form 9. Now, the Form 9 format differs from the Form 7 in that the Form 9 will have different questions based on the unit type. So a Form 9 for a school would have different questions than a Form 9 for a county would have. A couple of things to keep in mind as you fill out the Form 9. The first is that the Form 9 assists us in gaining an understanding of the nature and environment of the governmental unit. And just like the Form 7, you only need to complete Part 1 of this form. Parts 2 and 3 will be completed by the engagement team when they arrive on site. And, just like the Form 7, the answers you provide in Part 1 will be followed up on by the engagement team, and any further adjustments or updates, if necessary, will be communicated to you. We also wanted to cover two special topics on the Form 9 that we frequently get questions on. The first is over service organizations. On the generic Form 9, this is question number 12 in the Structure and Governance section. Most of the time, the confusion pertains to what truly is or is not a service organization. So, what is a service organization? Many entities outsource aspects of their business activities to organizations that provide services ranging from performing a specific task under the direction of the entity to replacing entire business units or functions of the entity. Now, although many of these services are essential to the entity's business operations, not all of these are relevant to our engagement. Services provided by a service organization are relevant to the audit or review of a governmental unit's financial statements when those services and the controls over them affect the user entity's financial information system, including related business processes relevant to financial reporting. Now note that a one-time service does not result in the organization being deemed a service organization. There is also required to be a recurring nature. Here are some examples of types of services that would warrant an evaluation into whether an organization is or is not a service organization. Payroll processing services, third-party administration for self-insurance plans, billing services for an enterprise activity, a financial institution processing cash receipts through the use of a lockbox system, collecting taxes for the governmental unit, performing the unit's condition assessments of infrastructure assets using the modified approach, and performing the annual inventory and/or the valuation of capital assets. On the other hand, professional standards do give us a couple of examples of situations that would not require this evaluation. AUC 402.05 states, "This section does not apply to services that are limited to processing an entity's transactions that are specifically authorized by the entity, such as the processing of checking account transactions by a bank or the processing of securities transactions by a broker. That is, when the user entity retains responsibility for authorizing the transactions and maintaining the related accountability." In addition, this section does not apply to the audit of transactions arising from an entity that holds a proprietary financial interest in another entity, such as a partnership, corporation, or joint venture, when the partnership, corporation, or joint venture performs no processing on behalf of the entity. Now, I know I gave you a lot of information on this topic in a very short amount of time, but hopefully this assists you in providing the best information in relation to service organizations. The second special topic we want to cover is related parties. Specifically, who qualifies as a related party and what type of transactions qualify as related party transactions. On the generic Form 9, this is question number 8 under the Structure and Governance section.
The first type of person who qualifies as a related party is any member of the governing body. Examples include, but are not limited to, members of council, the commissioners, and the school board. The second type of person who qualifies is any administrative official. These include, but are not limited to, a mayor, city manager, or a superintendent. The third type of person is an immediate family member of the first two types of persons that we've listed. The fourth related party is any employee benefit trust managed by the governmental unit or for which the governmental unit's management is the trustee. And finally, the fifth common related party I wanted to bring to your attention are holding corporations / building corporations.
Here are types of transactions that would be considered related party transactions. The first is the receiving or furnishing of goods, services, or facilities from a related party or to a related party. The second is the sale, purchase, exchange, or leasing of property with a related party. The third is the transfer to or receipt of income or assets from a related party. And the fourth is other transactions with a related party, including side agreements, implicit or informal understandings, or other agreements. Hopefully this will assist you in determining what or who is or is not a related party and what is or is not a related party transaction. One additional thing to note on the Forms 7 and 9 is that we will include the information that was provided to us on these same forms during your prior engagement. Unlike the examples you just saw, we typically will not give you a blank form unless we are performing an initial audit engagement on your unit. Now, the information on your Form 9 may have been provided by you personally in the last engagement, or it may have been provided by your predecessor. Either way, the important step is that you review the information listed for accuracy to the best of your knowledge, and to please make any necessary modifications, either in a different colored font or a highlighted font. We also ask that you please do not delete text that does not apply anymore. Rather, we ask that you use the strike-through function so it is a more efficient process for our audit team to determine information that was once true but now is not. Lastly, you may also attach and refer to any documents that answer any questions on either of the forms. But if you do so, we ask that you please include all of those documents in your return email to Engagement Strategies. You will also see one more document attached in the Engagement Planning Communication email. This is the letter of instruction. Now, outside of a couple specific topics, today's presentation was really more of a brief overview of what the forms are and what their purpose is. This letter details the information regarding the completion of the Forms 7, 9, and 13 in a little more detail. If you have questions after watching this video, this letter will hopefully be the first step in answering those. So, that's all I have. Again, we ask that you please complete and return these documents in an email to our Engagement Strategies team within 3 weeks of receiving the Engagement Planning Communication email. If you have any questions or concerns regarding any of this information, or if you would like further instruction regarding the completion of the Form 7, 9, and 13, please contact the audit coordinator copied on the Engagement Planning Communication email you received. The audit coordinator can answer all questions you may have so that the forms are completed properly and are available for the engagement team when they arrive on site so that we can maximize the efficiency and the effectiveness of your engagement process. Thank you.